Do you want to write short stories in a genre which you are new to, but you have found the genre very interesting for telling the stories you want to tell? I have found such a genre, and that is cyberpunk. I'm a fantasy reader, I'm a mythological reader, I've been writing a lot of autobiographical stuff. I've been attending many author courses, but after a lot of thinking, cyberpunk's the genre for me. Why? Because you have the stratification in society between high class, low class, you have the underclass, you have the struggles that people find to actually earn their income because you have the major companies using you if you're in that position in society, but you also have people who benefit from the situation. You have a situation today, I would say, in our modern society where we have an opportunity for some people, but also a threat for others. With the AI, it can threaten our jobs, for example, and people have to survive in this environment. People have to earn money. And in the cyberpunk world, it's usually a bit gritty. It's related to crime, for example. That can make interesting stories, and you can put in people maybe don't want to be there, but they have to be there. And you can also put in fantasy elements like in the video game Shadowrun, for example, which is cyber fantasy. Also, the famous Cyberpunk 2077 is great inspiration for that. So today I'm going to show you and talk about five techniques for diving into genre that might be new to you. It can be cyberpunk, it can be fantasy, it can be anything actually. So please continue to watch even if you don't really like this genre maybe. I have five tips for you, and the first one is to learn the genre. I will tell you how I have learned, and how I'm learning the cyberpunk genre because it's new to me. The importance of having a planned writing schedule, I will talk about. Write bad, not strive for the best writing. That's the third one. I think you should do excursions or visit places. That is very important in your writing, and I've used that before, and I'm happy to share my thoughts about that. And also that you should trust your own concept and not copy. I mean, that's of course important when you write the first time about something, and it's inevitable, of course, but try to find your own take on things, and I will tell you about that as well. So, welcome to this channel. My name is Shrikant. This is the Nostalgic Dragon, and I'm happy to share my experiences from reading and writing with you today. So, if you want to dive into this genre, what can you do? With the cyberpunk genre, there is so much things you can get inspired from. As many of you know, I have recently read William Gibson's Neuromancer, and this is the second book, Count Zero. And just read what you find and get a picture of it. Neuromancer was great. I was surprised it was so accurate from 19, I think, written in the 80s, to describing many parts that exist in our world today. Cyberpunk now doesn't need to be that, um, you know, wise to see things into the future, but usually it is. And it was a great ride, and you can watch the review here on the channel too if you're interested. I'm playing the cyberpunk video game, and in this game there are many short stories that you can get inspiration from, um, and also the setting. You can see how a cyberpunk city comes to life, what is in there, all the beauty, but also there is beauty, but there is so much social tragedy in a cyberpunk city, and that is something I found very interesting. And I'm also interested in other genres when reading my short stories, and that is uh, John Steinbeck, and also Swedish authors that write in the same vein with the social realistic take on things, the ordinary struggle, or the struggle for the ordinary man in a very brutal and harsh world. That is something I really like to share with you. these kind of stories. Um, Here's another book, Altered Carbon, a Netflix series too, if you want to go that way. And seems interesting. Just started about people who have skins. It's called sleeves. People really don't die when they die. They get a new sleeve, but this sleeve they are owned by the company. So we start to read about a person here, and he's I think his contract is for 6 months, if I remember right. So that's an interesting take. All humans, we are dependent on many things, not at least money, of course, to survive. So the twist in that story, Altered Carbon, is very interesting to me to learn more from. I recently bought this beautiful um, manga, Akira. And this is interesting, I think, because I started to read this yesterday. And one thing with cyberpunk stories, and that goes with Neuromaster and also Altered Carbon, and I would say cyberpunk, is that they are quickly thrown into the action, usually by surprise, usually from confusion. Usually they don't know why they are there. So that seems like a great and important component. Sorry. Uh, Maybe an opponent too, and they um, they seem to be startled by the start. Not only we as a reader, but also the main character. If you compare that with fantasy, for example, you have different kind of starts in fantasy, but usually in classic epic fantasy, you have the pastoral England, for example, and the coming of age story, and the pub, and all the friends, and then there comes a magician or a wise man telling the world is under threat. That's the but if you watch other fantasy like Malazan Book of the Fallen, which is inspired by Dune, for example, people are thrown right into the action. That seems to be the ordinary way in cyberpunk. Doesn't mean to be so for me. I'm not sure, but it's very important to know how a story starts. Um, Another book I would like to show you is this classic, Philip K. Dick. This is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? So together with the movie Blade Runner, I think all these I've showed you can work as a great start for delving deep into the cyberpunk genre. Remember, I'm new to this. I'm an expert in a way when it comes to fantasy and mythology, especially. So this is new. I'm trying to approach it. I think that is an interesting project by itself. So if you have some time during the summer, for example, why not try to do this kind of passion project because it's very fun. Most importantly, maybe, is that I have a notebook where I write down my thoughts and my ideas. It's very important to just write on schedule, write a number, word count every day or every week. Schedule it. Don't find, look for the passion. Just do it when you have scheduled it. And bad writing is better than not doing it at all. And bad writing is always better than good or perfect writing. Don't think you can write perfect. I don't think so for myself. There will always be flaws, but you need to get the story down on paper. So just do it and try to be undisturbed. Try to have music you like. Try to have something you enjoy drinking, like tea or coffee, for example, to make your mind alert. It's a passion project, but you need to schedule it. Another important part of it all is to write from things you see. So observation and excursions are very important, and they are fun too. So it's easy to get lost in that, I think. But so with the cyberpunk genre, there are certain places all around the Stockholm area, and I was recently in Gothenburg, which I find interesting. That is, for example, ports. We have the metro, or the communication is trams in Gothenburg, for example. Um, You have bridges, you have maybe central parts of the city that you would like to see how they look like, and maybe take notes. You can look up in the sky, imagine if this was cyberpunkish, how would the city look like then? Would it be more skyscrapers? Would it be more neon lights? And maybe write a scene about that, how it would look like. And also just to sit in places on a cafe, or if you just go into some part of, I don't know where you live, maybe you live in Brisbane or you live in Canada or you live in the United States, just go to a place where you think it would be nice to have a great scene here, or the story would start here. Go there, sit there, listen, feel, write what you think and what comes up. That is a great way. Also to observe people, of course, because that's a great thing with cyberpunk. Because I don't know, people. I imagine people look like we do today, with more cyberware and more technical stuff. However, you can do that in fantasy too, because we look as we look like, but with different clothes. But observe. Go make excursions, listen, sit down, and also observe people, how people react, how people talk, because conversation is a very big part of a short story or even a book, if you would come, as long as that in your writing. Very important is to trust your own concepts. As you know, I'm having these kind of blueprint for me is cyberpunk, and there are many cyberpunk stories that recently it's basically got branded in a way with a video game from CD Project Red, but you should try to find your own story. And I just want to give you some examples what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking about these things in my short stories. How will the society look like? I imagine to write about Scandinavia 100 years, maybe only 50 years from now. What will society look like? Cyberpunk is a dystopian kind of genre, but with people in it giving hope. That's how I put it. And what can happen here in Scandinavia? Scandinavia has a very, I don't know what if you think that, but the perception is quite peaceful and strong economic equality and so on. But in my Scandinavia, 50 to 100 years from now, all these have changed. We also have a strong democratic tradition here. So I imagine all this is gone. No democracy. We have no structured society. Maybe tribalistic societies in a way. We have not so many today, like in all other parts of the world, but we'll have multinational companies, for example. We will have a political sphere that is maybe not the most charming one in my dystopian future. Of course, we will have a lot of crime and also a lot of people getting into all these kind of things for various different reasons, different motives. And also we have the landscape, because Scandinavian landscape is very, very beautiful. It's very desolate, so I imagine that this world in the future will be more densely populated, have more of a urbanized character, but still there will be countryside, and still there will be this Scandinavian culture, which is quite distinct, being a quiet culture, for example. People are very friendly, but maybe not so talkative as if you compare with other cultures. So I'd like to add all these things into the mix. There is a very central concept called the sprawl in cyberpunk, which is, as I understand it, extreme urbanization. So Sweden is not so urbanized, even if we have three major cities in the country, which are internationally, in comparison, internationally very small. But I imagine that all this could be a big sprawl, or we could have a big sprawl from the west of Sweden down to Malmo and to Copenhagen, for example. So I'm experimenting a little bit on these ideas. And in this story, we have number of stories. So just to give you an idea, I have the idea of writing a Buddha story in a cyberpunk world. What would happen if you put in that kind of character, in that kind of very brutal, very aggressive, very um, uh, strong achievement culture with focus on that the strongest survive. What will happen if you put in such a person in such a society? I think that can make interesting stories. I will try to write some stories about the elite who falls, the person upper class who falls down. That is not it's a bit tropey, but I think it's good. And also, if you rise from the bottom to the top, that is, of course, a very classic story that you can find in many kinds of literature. And also, I would like to portray the life for the everyday citizen that is not part in this fight for survival in the same way. So, the four takes for me. I would like to make this my own kind of stories. Of course, you can't leave inspiration behind, and you are always influenced by things. But that's my 5 tips how to approach writing in a new genre, a cyberpunk for me, maybe fantasy for you, mythology, or it could be any other kind of genre, of course. So, and also one thing I found really interesting during this short journey so far, it's that people have become very engaged because, as I said, people can relate to these stories, and I've already gotten a lot of concepts, ideas, and proposals on what the story should include. So if you have that too, to me, I'm happy to hear that. If you're writing too, please tell me about your writing. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Follow the journey on my writing. If you want to look at other things on the channel, you can follow author interviews, book reflections, fantasy book reviews, science fiction reviews, and cyberpunk books reviews. So I hope you will like it here. And if you're a regular, so I'm very happy to see you again. So it's morning here. I'm going to eat some breakfast. And I hope you will find a good cup of tea or coffee. Thank you.